Oh. I'll make sure where this part goes. We have a bingo. All right, it's actually worked this time. Excellent. Should be good. Good to go, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 24th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We stand, say pledge of allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we'll have Noreen will have a roll call of the seating of the alternates, a roll call of the alternates and the members.
Okay. Commissioner Clappy,
Here.
Commissioner Cox,
Here.
Commissioner Minor,
Here.
Commissioner Nafis,
Here.
Commissioner Pascarelli,
Here.
Chairman Sobieski,
Here.
Commissioner Woods,
Here.
Commissioner Droz,
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Here.
Commissioner Wakama.
Here.
Thank you, Noreen.
You're welcome.
Since we're all here, we don't need to have appoint any alternates. Next, Mr. Planner, approval of the agenda.
I have no changes to the agenda.
Okay, very good. Next will be public participation. Items not listed on the agenda. You'll have 2 minutes. Anyone wishing to come up and talk? Anybody online?
There is no one online, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Remarks by commissioners. Any remarks by any of the commissioners? Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
very good. We'll go into public hearings.
You read the, you gotta read the notice.
Yeah, you gotta read the
Yep.
notice, Jan.
So I'll,
Well, there it is. Want to read it, Paul?
yep, I think you guys can read that and then I'm going to read the actual
The order of
paper.
proceeding.
I'll read it.
Okay.
Procedures for public hearings. The order of proceedings at public hearings shall be as follows. A, convening by chairperson. B, reading of the notice by the commission secretary or a commissioner designated by the chairperson to act in their stead. C, presentation by applicant. D, town planner report on the application. E, persons wishing to speak in favor of the application, limited to 3 minutes per person. F, persons wishing to speak in opposition to the application, limited to 3 minutes per person. G, rebuttal by the applicant, limited to 5 minutes total. During a public hearing, it shall be within the discretion of the chairperson whether the time limitations should be varied slightly, provided the commission consents to any variance by a majority vote.
Thank you, Jan.
Okay, so I'll read
Okay,
so this is the public hearing notice, Newington Town Plan Zoning Commission, notice of public hearing, April 24th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Notice is hereby given that the Newington Town Plan and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing in the council chambers, room 103, Town Hall, 200 Garfield Street, Newington, Connecticut, on Wednesday, April 24th, 2024, to consider the following petitions. Petition 7-24, special permit for the sale of alcoholic beverages, section 6.6.2 for 4 restaurants and a grocery store at 3313 through 3333 Berlin Turnpike in the PD zone, plan development zone. Applicant Howard Grossman, Grossman Development Group, owner Meadow Commons, owner LLC, contact Jamie Anderson. The public hearing will be a Zoom hybrid webinar. Information on how to attend will be posted on the town website. Link follows. These petitions and related materials are available for public inspection at the town planner's office, town hall, room 204, and through the published agenda on Town Plan and Zoning Commission Agenda Center. Link follows. Persons who require accommodation to participate in this public hearing should contact the town planner at 860-665-8578 or email link follows not less than 24 hours before the public hearing. Submitted Paul Dixon, town planner, and it ran in the rare reminder, April 11th and April 18th, and the sign was posted.
okay, thank you. Mr. Conte, is the, yeah. This person here that's,
Good evening. Good evening to the board. Mr.
Please
Chairman,
state your name and address for the
Sure.
record.
my name for the record is Jamie Anderson. I'm with Grossman Development Group with offices in Framingham, Massachusetts at 405 Cochituate Road. Pleased here to tonight to present our application for the redevelopment of 3333 Berlin Turnpike. As you are aware, the project obtained several special permits back in May of 2021, which included but not limited to a brew pub or brew pub restaurant. We are not building a brew pub restaurant at the site, but it was our oversight at the time to not include restaurants with the sale of alcohol as well as the grocery store with the sale of alcohol. So that's why we're here tonight, which is, basically as Paul mentioned, section 6.6.2, which states the commission may grant a permit to sell or serve alcoholic beverages in buildings permitted in non-residential zones, subject to conditions and the provisions of section 5.2 and 5.3. And just as a reminder, as indicated in 6.6.3.c, there be no separation distances required for restaurants in this case. So we are talking about 4 restaurants, but there's no separation distance required. I see that the plan is shown on the screen. I can kind of go through what we are planning to build and what tenants we have leased right now. Starting building A, which is the bottom left-hand corner of the site. That's a standalone building. That's Beso Taco Bar. That is 5,250 square feet, which will have a full bar. Sally's a Pizza, which is directly adjacent. There'd be 2 restaurants adjacent in building B. Sally's Pizza is the first one. That is 5,250 square feet, and they will also have a full bar. Adjacent to them is Shake Shack, which thankfully did open today. Thanks to the board. Thank you for everybody in the town. We had a successful soft opening today with a full opening tomorrow. That is 3,287 square feet. They will serve just beer and wine. Adjacent to that, up at the top of the sheet is building C. There are no restaurants in that building in building C that will serve alcohol or beer or wine. But in building D, right there is Cava, which is 2,504 square feet, and they will be serving beer and wine. So back in 2021, we sort of went through all the consistencies with the POCD. I'm not sure if the board would like me to go through those again. Nothing has really changed there. I'm happy to go through them, but there's not a lot of changes with respect to how the project is consistent with the POCD. But I can just kind of go directly to the procedures and standards for special permits. At this point, which, in reviewing the proposed special permit, the commission shall consider the following criteria, as well as any specific standards pertaining to the requested special permit and record its findings in the record of the meeting. So, letter A, the need for the proposed use and the proposed location. We're located on the Berlin Turnpike. Obviously, the site is centrally located within the regional job market and providing excellent access, which offers a diversity of shopping and lifestyle amenities. So this is what is driving the need for this use specifically. In this case, restaurants with the sale of alcohol, it's a very common use in this area. I think it goes without saying this is a good location for that. Letters B and C. Letter B is existing and probable future character of the neighborhood in which the use is located, and C, the size, type, and location of main and accessory buildings in relation to one another. So back in 2021, we obviously took a lot of these, while we were designing it, building materials, colors, forms, fenestrations, and ins and outs, and utilize these to reduce the building scale and add interest to the built environment, making this a desirable destination. So this is exactly, the location for dining, et cetera. Letter D is traffic circulation. Obviously, this is a major traffic generator. We've been dealing with OSTA throughout the project. We're still dealing with OSTA. We do have the right in, right out as we speak. But I think the site obviously has 2 access points, and easy access off of 2 public rights of way, obviously Payne Road to the rear, and then the main access with a proposed signal. The proposed signal will be completed within the next 6 to 8 weeks. We expect that the contractor has been out there for the past couple of weeks starting that work again. Letter E is the availability of public water and sewer as well, as well as adequacy of existing offsite stormwater systems. The project has been dealing with MDC throughout, and we have built proposed water mains and sewer mains to their specifications throughout the site. And of course, our comprehensive stormwater management report that we submitted in May of 2021 was approved by the board and the town. And the last two, F and G. F is the location of the types of displays and signs, lighting and landscaping, and the impact type of signs to adjacent properties, as well as G, safeguards to provide safeguards to protect adjacent property and the neighborhood in general from detriment, including but not limited to proper buffering. So, we sort of met these back in our 2021 proposals, but I can kind of read it here. It's lighting and landscaping have been designed and constructed to enhance the overall character. The site meets and meets the zoning requirements. Landscaping and lighting reinforce the overall site design, pedestrian and vehicular circulation, enhances and dedicated open spaces, complements low impact development measures employed in the stormwater management areas, and provides shade to reduce heat gain and hardscape areas. All landscape buffers provided meet the town of Newington zoning regulations. And of course, just within our site, we want, proper buffering between the residential and commercial. So that kind of is what we tried to achieve on site with at least 30 feet of buffering between the two sites. That was kind of the reorientation at this point. Happy to answer any of your questions regarding this special permit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Any questions from the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Woods.
It's really a question to our town planner, Paul. So they're requesting a special permit. Typically, it is permittee that does this, correct? For the liquor license. I understand we're not issuing them a liquor license, but just help me through that. So each one of these establishments now requires an application for a liquor license, correct? So if we approve this, this will work for whoever is going to from Shake Shack if they're serving alcohol beverages. They could take that and this still works.
Yes, so this is for, the general use.
Just the general use of
Yep, the general use, again.
I don't know if I've ever done it this way. That's why I'm questioning.
Yeah,
Typically, it's an individual coming in who is the permittee or going to be the permittee on the
Yeah, because
property.
typically, when you have a restaurant, if it was given a special permit and say it was given a special permit for the past restaurant, another restaurant turns over, moves in, changes the name, you keep going with that same underlying permit. Same thing for everything we give a special permit to, say, a tire shop turns from one owner to another, they still have approval for that automotive use. So that's the way we've kind of approached it. Again, it's for the owner to be able to provide that benefit to the operator. So when they come in, they do not have that lag in between going for a special permit. It's the same as what we did with restaurants for the use too. It was that general restaurant use that was approved. And then whatever
I'm not
restaurant.
opposed to this at all, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that,
Yep.
we weren't digging ourselves a hole or you setting it back when, they go to apply for their liquor permit, that they got to come back in front of us. So.
Yeah, and as the CEO, I still have to sign off on the liquor permits when they apply for each
Okay,
place.
all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other questions? Yes,
Just
Commissioner
a quick
Meyer.
clarification, so if any other additional restaurants were to open outside of the initial scale of these four, and the grocer would come back in.
Yep, and that's actually the staff recommended condition. Again, it's whether we in the future look at, every town deals with the sale of alcohol. It's Connecticut, so, we're a Boo law state. So every town deals with it very differently. Some towns don't require you to get permits for, say, if you're in a shopping center above an X amount of size, grocery stores aren't required to get one or that type of thing. So right now we have it as any use that's a store that sells it requires to have it, and any on-site service is required to have it as well.
Thank you.
I'll say, Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, so for the record, I'd just like to add that, and it's in your staff report, staff did review the distances. Again, not for the restaurant, there's no required restaurant, but right now we have only one category, stores and the like. So grocery beer is pulled into that stores and the like right now. The closest use would actually be Stu Leonard's, who has their liquor store And that is 2,000 feet away. So that far exceeds the 500-foot requirement from door to door.
All right. Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this? Anybody online?
There's someone online, but they don't have their hand raised.
Anybody wishing to speak in opposition?
No one has their hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. I move that we close public hearing with my,
It's right here.
7-24
And
and
move to-
move it to old business for possible actions, right? Here, second.
Second. Fox.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We'll vote on this later tonight. Okay, next will be the approval of the minutes. Commissioner Droz, I think you called me about something. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, there was a couple things. I reviewed some of the summation in regards to, there's page 29. And I listened to the YouTube rebroadcast, if you will, of our meetings. Page 29 at 1 hour and 57 minutes into the video. On page 29, it says Commissioner Minor and your moratorium could just be on dispensaries and sales. You could still leave production alone for now because you don't have any production facilities. That was actually Mr. Hinckley who said that, not Commissioner Minor. Then you jump down 2 quotes, Chairman Sobieski. We originally had it at 500 or 1,000 feet, and then we started drawing lines, and then basically nowhere, it doesn't go anywhere. That was actually Commissioner Woods, not Chairman Sobieski. On page 30, Commissioner Nafis has a paragraph, I'm not in favor of a moratorium. There's another quote between Commissioner Nafis and Commissioner Fox that was missing. So someone can go back and look at that. Then the original reason why I was looking at all this on page 31, I was asked for my opinion in regards to the cannabis stores. And there's actually a couple of things in there which really kind of changed the tone, if you will. What I'd said was, what's written is, I agree with Commissioner Woods in regards to businesses that we cannot regulate. Well, we're talking about regulating businesses because we're talking about putting a moratorium on cannabis retailers. What I actually said, according to the video, was I agree with Commissioner Woods in regards to businesses. Businesses tend to self-regulate. Totally different. Jump down a couple lines. And what I'm curious is how much of the discussion is a major reaction to the side of the coin. What I actually said was knee-jerk reaction. In other words, how much is our decision, or how much is the public looking for a reactionary decision on our part versus a major decision, which is what was read. So I just wanted to point out a few mistakes just within these 2 pages.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if you looked at.
So please have Maureen correct the minutes.
Yep, as I said, if you would like to, yes, we can table them and come back with a corrected like we did.
I'd like to, yes, I'll entertain a motion to table the minutes.
Yeah,
I
Yes.
have another comment. On page 8, kind of down at the bottom of this page there, it has me making a comment. Actually, that was Alan Bonzavani who made that comment, not me. On the bottom of page 8.
Oh, okay.
You made some comment to Alan, he responded. So that was him rather than me.
All right. Okay, any other corrections? Okay, I can have a motion to table the minutes until they're corrected.
Second.
All right, so moved and second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Who made the original motion for that, Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry?
Who made the original motion for
Who made the, Mike, did you make the
I heard
motion?
from Mr. Fox said second.
I'll make a motion.
All right. Mike made the motion.
Who seconded, please?
Who seconded it?
I will second.
Oh, Alan seconded, Alan
Thank
Nafis,
you.
Commissioner Nafis.
Close enough.
Yes.
Okay. Any other, let's see, going to new business, I believe now, Mr. Planner?
yes.
Okay.
New business, we have, Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-24 referral, Mill Pond Pedestrian Bridge, project. Right?
So I don't believe, so our town engineer is away this week. He was maybe going to join us, but I don't see him on right now, so I will present it to you. So this is a chapter 126, section 824 referral, mandatory referral by the Connecticut General Statutes. So the town engineer submitted this to the town council for referral to the TPZ. This project has already actually been, we've been awarded the grant. So this is a grant for a small town economic assistance program where we received $240,000 and we match that with $60,000 of our funds. Now that $60,000 also includes in-kind services. So the town engineer will track his time along with Parks crew's time in this as well too, for the replacement of the Mill Ponds pedestrian bridge. So this bridge that we all, I think pretty much everyone here is familiar what we're looking at, but over in the park across the street, the bridge has been in service for over 50 years. So that's where we were talking to a previous town employee who remembered many years ago getting his pictures taken on that bridge when he was getting married, and that was not new at the time. So again, we're well past typical service life. What we had is when the town engineer actually started, one of his first things was to go look at that bridge with the Parks Department. It was evaluated. The town engineer actually brought in a structural engineer to take a look at the bridge as well. So the bridge has been used. I think the Parks Department had a group of students who actually went and take their picture on there. Again, they were just told, do not jump up and down. It's kind of at that point where we should be replacing the bridge. So again, we have been awarded a grant to do this. So that the burden is lesser on the town to actually do this work. So as you can see in the picture, we all know the Mill Pond Bridge. This was taken, the pedestrian bridge, this was taken after a pretty good rainstorm. Kind of the reason why a bridge in this case would need to be replaced after a while with the amount of water, with the amount of moisture. Over the time of the period of the bridge, I actually have another photo. You can actually kind of see the pattern of the bridge. So it does have that cross pattern between each section. And what you have is going to the next photo. So this is the proposed replacement. So what actually happened is the town engineer went before town council and presented the bridge. Originally, it was a straight without any camber to it. The town council said, the character of this bridge has a camber now, and we like to maintain that. We worked with the bridge manufacturer, and they were able to add I believe it is a 1% camber, which keeps it ADA compliant through the entirety of the bridge. So again, we don't have the exact camber on that one, but we'll have a camber going forward. So we'll keep some of its current character, but the 1% is what's required, again, to keep it ADA compliant, which is part of the town's goals and everything we should do kind of moving forward when we're looking at our facilities. So the overall plan, again, this is just hard to see, but it just gives you the overall plan, identifies the bridge. And we'll move forward to the next slide. And then I kind of have a blow up of this plan. So what you'll see kind of in that area, that dashed line that goes around the shoreline, that is the potential limit of disturbance. This application, this will need to go in front of the Wetlands Commission as an application, but this is not an application in front of you tonight. It's an 824 referral. If it was an application, the wetlands would have to act beforehand, but because it's just an 824 referral, this is just a positive referral for the expenditure of town money on on a public infrastructure. So can zoom it in one. So what the plan is, again, is to replace the bridge. And it's pretty similar to the style that's there now with the cross, members and what you can see for design. For the color of the bridge, it's noted in the staff report that the Parks and Rec Board, or the Board of Parks and Recreation, did have a meeting and did vote on this. And what they recommended is, again, slightly a brownish color to be selected by town staff and the town administration. So we'll be working together, likely town manager and me, town engineer, and Bill DeMayo, and just talking about what the plan is for the bridge. They've recommended kind of a brownish color. What our plan is to do is to go out there and get a bunch of color samples, look at them in with a place and see what looks the best, kind of going forward. The bridge historically was at one point a darker red, then now it is black. And so we're looking in between, but when it was presented in front of the town council, they did like, there was a product of self-weathering steel, which actually did give a good look, but it was decided not to go in that direction because if you had people with wedding dresses on the bridge and they happen to rub against the side of it, or if you have kids going by, that could be an issue for us. And we did not want to have that for patrons of our park. So again, the plan is within that kind of dashed area, that would be the potential disturbance. There is a tree or two that might likely need to be removed. Again, the plan is there's a temporary staging area for a crane that's going to be swinging the bridge into place. And it will be coming in, you know, on the south side of the park, going through the open green space where the fields are right now. And again, with as minimal intrusion as we can do to install this bridge. One item that we did add is add an electrical conduit from the existing light pole there. Because right now, the way that the past lights on the bridge was kind of strung up with cords and everything, that this will provide a duplex box there, weather tight. So the Parks and Recreation can actually do those decorations and it'll be a lot easier and more convenient and safer overall. And again, you can kind of see the project will be planned for a time, again, consulting with Parks and Recreation to make sure it doesn't impact any of their schedules. In reviewing the POCD, generally it doesn't talk about specifics, again, about a specific bridge. On this one, it didn't really actually mention it, but there is a goal in Chapter 11, page 70, which is to maintain and manage community facilities and services in an efficient and cost-effective way to maximize their utility and meet current community needs and anticipate and adapt to future community needs. Again, this is making it more ADA accessible, and it also is doing it with a grant. Again, we're talking about efficient and cost effective, that we received a grant to do this work. So town staff recommends a positive recommendation and approval to the town council for the expenditure of town funds to replace the bridge.
Is there a time frame, roughly how long it would take to get from beginning to end of the project?
Chris would answer that better, but if I remember during his presentations that he gave, it's a relatively quick turnaround to actually do the project. Again, because it's the question will be just the evaluation of the abutments when we go to do the work. But the actual process of installing the bridge is pre-manufactured.
So it's just
swinging, and that's the point of putting the crane in, swing it into place and attach it to the abutments.
Right. Okay.
So by that way being pre-manufactured, there is less disturbance to the park.
No, I'm just wondering, that's all.
Yep.
Yes, Commissioner Woods.
So the plan is to reuse the existing abutments that are there?
Yes.
And just, again, clarification, why the 8-24? We're replacing a bridge. I would get it more if there was a new bridge, but just to be safe.
Yeah, and it was, again, working with the town engineer, and the town engineer did submit it to council. Again, I've seen 824s through my history for something as small as a field house.
This is right, this is gonna be another one.
Yeah,
But it doesn't take much time.
yeah, and it is, I think it's because it's a focal point for the community. If this was, a very small pedestrian bridge over a small brook somewhere as part of a hiking trail, that's something different, but it does have a prominent place in Newington.
And is it the deck a wooden deck like?
Yes.
It is, okay. All right, thank you. All set? Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. All right, anybody wishing to speak in favor?
Not a hearing. It's
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Sorry. All right, need a motion to accept and move to old business.
No, actually, we can take care of it right under new business right now.
Okay,
So
all right, all in favor of the referral of the 824? Say aye.
you just need
Can I
to-
read the motion?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Okay. Motions for new business, 8-24 referral for the replacement of the pedestrian footbridge over Mill Pond Falls. Motion to issue favorable referral approval, CGS Chapter 126, Section 8-24 referral, Mill Pond pedestrian bridge. Reasons for approval. This referral does not conflict with the POCD and is consistent with the POCD goal to maintain and manage community facilities in an efficient and cost-effective way.
Second. I need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
And seconded by
I need a second.
Mike, just a second.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're all set. Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is pre-application 2020, 220, 226, 226 rear and 224 Kits Lane.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you want, I wouldn't mind just
Oh, yes, I'm sorry,
teeing
go
this
ahead.
up a little bit. Again, we have been working with the pre-applicant and discussing this property. Again, this is very early in the process. Right now, there is a concept sketch and, we were discussing possible paths forward. You can see in the staff report that in the applicant's narrative, they noted that there's currently in the zoning regulations, there is no path forward. The goal tonight for the commission and for staff and the applicant is to get feedback from the commission, again, for kind of twofold. Number one is the concept of housing in the Business Berlin Turnpike zone, whether that's something that the commission wants to consider holistically as the zone or how the applicant proceeds with this application. And it's also potential comments on the development of this parcel and looking at kind of the orientation. Again, the goal is to aid not only the applicant, but to aid staff in what directions the commission would be looking to go. So again, so we can most efficiently use our staff time, again, if we're looking at regulations or if it's narrowly on this project. So from here, if you like, I'd like to hand it over.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Snow. For the record, my business is located in Cromwell, Connecticut. I live in Weathersfield, Connecticut. This project, as was explained, I've got the parcel under purchase and sale agreement with the contingency of getting some kind of use there. And my vision is to apply here for multifamily housing with a certain component of affordability to it. Either that's through, as the town planner said, what method we get there, if that's a zone text amendment or an 830G style of application, that's something we're going to discuss. But my goal is to have this. I know there's been other multifamily projects approved in town with no affordability to that. And just to define that a little bit, the affordability that I'm considering is people in the area median income of 80% or 60%, which is both of those, which means the typical two household tenant would be making between $72,000 and $55,000. This is not an affordable of Section 8 or other items. The affordability we're looking at is between those two areas of AMI. The product offered for the multifamily will be similar to ownership development. It would be a townhouse style with garages and privacy for each unit. There'll be no long hallways that you see in some of the larger apartments. This would be very similar to for sale development and give that hopefully sense of community. I believe the location is ideal for that, being close to Stop and Shop and other areas and convenience for the Berlin Turnpike. There is a bus route that's very close if that's something that's required. But I believe that most of the tenants would have cars and vehicles and the ability to travel to and from the development itself. Really, that's the general. We have looked at this from a couple different avenues. If we did do a zone text amendment, we do realize there'll be some other impact to the BT zone in the town. If we do an 830G, it would just impact this portion, this property itself. And from that side, I did have, when we started the project, my attorney looked at this, and I'm not an attorney, but his advice was that in the BT zone, I think he said section 311.14, they do allow for residential on a second floor of a business. So that would help us with the avenue of going the 830G application if that was something that we decided to do, or this commission and with staff decided to go forward with. With that, I would turn this. The engineer is, I believe he's online if we had any questions, but we did consult with the fire marshal. This plan does meet with all the turning radiuses. There would not be a big change that we foresee here from any kind of safety or life safety issues. And with that, I would just turn that over for any comments and we can have a discussion about what this commission feels would be beneficial to that property in the community.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to add to Mr. Snow's presentation. This material was kind of put in your packet as well, but I want to highlight where the site is and then we can bring up the site plan. So this is kind of zoomed in version of the property itself. I have one of the whole Business Berlin Turnpike zone, but you can kind of see that I kind of highlighted the zones. It abuts the R20 zone in the rear. There are two properties to the south of this existing property. One is a current construction company and the other is an electrical contractor who has those two. And then it's the residential plan zone. Across Kitts Lane is the planned development zone. The planned development zone currently does permit multifamily residential. The issues of, we did discuss this with the applicant, the issues of pulling the PD zone over, if that was, look at it, is the two lots to the south of it are below, I believe below the 1 acre threshold, or at least one of them is, to bring it into the PD zone. So that would conflict with our zoning regulations and you'd be left with a small island of Berlin Turnpike by itself, which typically would follow the normal strategy of zoning and mapping the zones. So you can see, I'll kind of do a zoomed out view. You can say, so this is, and very hard to see up on the screen. It is in the staff report as well, but this sits in the almost the southernmost portion of the Business Berlin Turnpike zone off of Kitts Lane. And you can kind of see the Berlin Turnpike in the middle of it and the PD zone. And the Berlin Turnpike zone is a little different than the PD zone in that in a lot of areas of the PD zone, there are cheaper lots, but it does vary as you go up and down the Berlin Turnpike. But typically as the Berlin BBT zone goes north, the lots do get a little skinnier, a little less depth associated with them. So again, this is something that, again, very early in the conversation regarding zoning and regarding the process, but to get some guidance going forward. And the one information I did want to add in discussing, I can actually show you. So this is the red overline on the parcel itself, and you can just kind of see just the mass of development around it to get an idea. Again, that's the Stop and Shop Plaza, which is immediately to the north. And then you can see the two different contractor uses to the south, and then the residential kind of over in the southeast. And then, of course, if you look to the west of this property, it's all of the businesses of the Berlin Turnpike. You have Aldi, which is close to this property as well. So it is kind of in an interesting spot in the Berlin Turnpike zone as it kind of pulls off of the Berlin Turnpike and goes onto Kitts Lane. And one thing I'd like to add too, because so this is something that the applicant has provided. It was emailed out to the commission actually this morning by Mr. Hinckley, but they did provide some follow-up that talked about just relative densities of the housing units that were approved nearby, just for some information for the commission too, for some comparisons. So that's up there on the screen. I don't know, is Danville online or?
No, Danville is not online.
Okay. So again, this is kind of put in before. This is supplied by the applicant, but Crown Ridge, which is 72 units, about 550 feet away, is a density of about 5.54 units per acre. Then you get Glen Oaks, 7.84, Griswold Hills, which is 12.12. and Woodsedge Drive, which is 8.65. So you can see there's a consistency in that, except, Griswold Hills, which has a little higher, but does provide some benefits for the community as well with Griswold Hills. And from there, I did want to talk about the towns, where we are right now, because this is kind of a question.
And just to point out that the proposal that I have, the preliminary is 7.3 units per acre. So fits right within that area. That's just to make sure the commission.
Yeah, so that's the reason why the applicant, to provide that, just to show how it does look. And again, this is not immediately adjacent, but one is 550 away, a little less, but within 2,000 feet, there are ones that are about the same density. That's just some information for the commission as you're considering this pre-application. Again, I'll remind everyone, this is a pre-application. It's not an application. There is no development to be approved in front of the commission tonight. This is to gain information for the applicant and for staff as I continue to work with the applicant in their process moving forward. Then to give some information to the commission and to the public. So where we are right now with affordability in Newington. The 2023 Connecticut Affordable Housing Appeals List, we're at 8.58%. Where we were last year on the appeals list is actually 8.51. It fluctuates a little. So what happened is this year, the 2020 census came in, which actually upped the housing numbers, the housing units we have. However, the one thing that actually drove the increase is actually CHFA and USDA mortgages. So that's something that we don't have very specific control over as the town. But because of the housing turnover, because of there's been, things are selling, as we know, quickly, that people are availing themselves of those CHFA and USDA mortgages, basically CHFA around here, for the ability to get houses, to come in with a lower, come in with a very, a low down payment, and to be able to become homeowners. So that has increased in Newington. So we've had an influx of new residents taking that opportunity. So moving forward, what I kind of did is a what if scenario. So, and this is kind of talking about what since the 2020 census and, items that weren't counted in it. So I know this has been talked about in the town, that 1,000 number has been kicked around. So what there is, so since then, about 50 single family residences have been approved for development. We have Peckham Farms and we have Rockhole subdivision, and then we have some smaller ones as well, 1 or 2 units here or there. And 985 multifamily units have been approved. Again, this is spread throughout the multiple developments that we have, but that's a total of 1,035 units. And of those, again, in the applications, 124 were slated to be affordable. 98 of those are actually with 550 Cedar Street. And that, right now, 2 buildings are constructed, a 3rd building is planned to be constructed, but they haven't started on that yet, and they're moving forward. They were actually installing solar on the roofs today as I went by.
The building that hasn't been built is not in these calculations, then, correct?
So what these are is this is what's been approved. So that's not in our numbers yet. So going forward, as soon as those are CO'd and a deed restriction is put on them, then I'll report that to the state. And if it comes in time to be on the next affordable housing appeals list, those units could be counted towards it, but the state needs to have, the deed restriction and get that information. And that would be filed at the clerk's office, and I would get that to them as well. So again, right now we're at 8.58. So this is a what if. So this is with a very large caveat of these numbers change. And we don't know what's going to happen with the USDA, with the CHFA mortgages and the tenant rental assistance, which fluctuates. That's a specific tenant, rather than the assisted units we have, which is a steady number, which are the larger CHFA or other state organization or even housing authority properties. So if we were looking at what if all of these affordable units came online and we could count them under the current affordable housing list, it would bring us up to 9.51%. But when the 2030 census come out, what you're looking at is all the units potentially would be counted, and that would bring us back down to 8.8%. So that's just an idea of where we are for affordability, looking forward to the next few years, if these units come online, where it will put us. And then if all the units are counted in the 2030 census, where roughly we'll be. Again, grain of salt on these numbers, things do change. There could be other approvals. People could look for different opportunities. Things could get, more funding from CHFA or from state organizations to add more affordable units. And I hope to continue to work towards that end. But this is just an idea of where we are and what we currently have approved and where it could put us. And so if you want to bring up, I think that's the end of mine for that. If you want to bring up the applicant's plan.
Okay, so to walk you through that plan, we were proposing an entrance off of Kitts Lane, which would enter off of Kitts Lane, and then if you go right, the road is basically a loop around the property with a wetlands area in the center. Just as another bit of background, when we first started the project, the town map showed no wetlands on the property. And then our soil scientists went out, we had identified some wetlands, we flagged them, have since gone to the Wetlands Commission, and I guess you get an agreement or consensus of these are the wetlands that are located on the property currently. And that map has been filed with the town. So again, we come in, it's a loop. As you do approach the rear of the property, there is some steep areas there, and that building with units number 22 to 29 in them. We do understand that there might be some special requirements or needs for the construction purposes. I really can't comment on that yet unless we get a little further. We start doing some borings and some specifics as to how we're going to construct those units. But I do understand that there is a area of concern, we'll call it, with drainage, with other items coming off from the top of that back of our property down towards the center. And our drainage has been designed to capture that and to maintain no runoff or minimal runoff that would create any kind of erosion or issues in the town. So that's really, it's kind of it's straightforward in my mind. If there's any questions from the design and layout that the commission has, I'm really more than willing to listen and hopefully reply.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners? Commissioner Minor?
Sure, thank you. The only concern, and I won't even say concern, I'm much happier seeing an application that's not high density, that is including the 30% affordable component, because my concern is with some of the larger scale projects is that we've actually been falling further behind. Unless we find some projects that have higher percentage numbers, I don't know that we'll ever catch up. And so with that, I'm more in favor of this type of project, and especially with it being abutting some either condominium or apartment complexes just to the south that are already pre-existing. The only, I won't even call it a caveat, but I think as far as the POCD goes, I would be a little concerned with, pursuing large scale projects on the turnpike, but maybe off of the turnpikes on the arterials might be a way to broach that end of it. So those are my only comments that I have at this point, but I think.
Yeah, this is probably again a question for Paul. Pat, if you can the answer, that's fine. But when was this changed to a BT zone? Do we know? Was it done when Stop and Shop was converted?
I do not know for sure. I'd have to look at
Can
it.
you find that out for me? I'd be curious to see, because my guess is it was more than likely zoned residential. And when that parcel to the north, which was Stamel property, it probably got changed then. It probably got lumped in. It would make some sense at that point to have done it, because they probably wrote on Stam's application for a zoning change.
All set, Commissioner West?
No, it just needed a little bit of water. Oh, and I'm assuming Mr. Snow is correct that we allow residential on a second floor in the BT zone. That's correct.
I believe so. It's in the business zone. I know definitely.
Okay.
It's that thing about our zoning regulations where they point to the next one and point to the next one.
And our 20-year plan, our POCD plan, is to try to encourage housing on the turnpike. Right. I guess I'm a little confused as to why this is even in the BT zone, because it's not on the Berlin turnpike. I guess sets back probably
So,
300-400 feet.
If I may, looking at the 1970 zoning map I'm looking at right now,
Yeah.
it was zoned as the old local business B1 zone, that property, along with the Stop and Shop property. So
And what would B1 allow? Would that allow?
I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember what the correlations are, but
I'm just curious to know. That's what happens sometimes with these zone changes over the years. You think you're doing something good, you don't develop it at the time, and now it might not be so good. There's a need. I guess I'm a little disappointed because I think nothing to do with your application, but with where we are with the numbers on trying to reach that 10%. In my mind, I guess I forgot all about the single family houses that we were building, because we have somewhere around 15-16% at the apartments for affordable units, but that got cut back because the 50, market rate houses. Again, you can't think of everything, and we've been fighting this. We can't seem to get to 9. We don't ever get really below 8 anymore. But the good news that I saw is that we are slowly, even in worst case scenario on your graph, we're making progress. But I think this is the piece of property where it's located, is a good use for residential use. We've got a grocery store next door You got another grocery store across the street. One, I'm gonna say market rate, one kind of like wholesale rate. There's restaurants that you can walk to. It has some potential, and I've said this several times at this table. I don't fully understand it, and I don't need to, but people right now, some people, not everybody, they want to live in apartments, and we need to accommodate that because there is a housing shortage, not just in the state, in the whole country. And as fast as these complexes are being built, they're filled and they stay full, and they typically have waiting lists. So, which says to me, there's a need. And again, we're not, while this is, again, anyone sees this, it's a wooded lot, but it's not open space. It's an undeveloped piece of real estate that for whatever reason, for the number of years, whether it be 50, 60, 70, 100 years, the owners didn't want to develop it. Now they do. They have that right, you know, as long as they meet all the regulations. And I think we should encourage this type. And again, 30% I think is pretty generous. The only way you're going to get more is, you know, it's a federally and state funded, and the state, as we learned today, they don't want to know anything about housing. They want to have it, but you figure out how to do it. The government will step in and fund the money, but the same thing. They want to pay this gentleman to build them and manage them. They don't want to build them, you know? But I think we need to continue, and these, the unit, you have, I don't know if you can put that up. The unit that he had, and again, I understand it's just a simple rendering. It's a nice looking unit. I would be proud to live there. It's nice. It actually reminds me, I sit on the Southfield Center apartment complex on their board of directors. And then again, that was built in the late 60s, opened up in 1970. And if that was built today, it would look like what Mr. Snow was proposing, minus the garages. They don't have a garage. And that's a nice looking structure. That would fit, I believe, in a neighborhood. I think it would increase property values, not decrease property values. And again, I would have, hopefully this can move forward, that we can work, I don't want to say work around, work with the developer to try to figure out how we can do it the right way, to get what he needs to build his units, so we can get the 70% market rate, but more importantly, at 30% affordable.
I would like to add to that,
Teachers, you know,
that it is, there's two existing non-conforming single-family houses on the property right now, which have fallen into, which are vacant. And we'll leave it at that. They're vacant houses that have been sitting there. I don't think they've been occupied for some time.
yeah, this has probably been for sale for 20 or 25 years.
Yes, and the property does have some challenges, and we have talked with Mr. Snow about that especially, and he did note that rear one can be a challenge. There's a differential of grade there. There's water coming down, you know, when we, you know, inspected the property back when the wetlands is, you know, you could see the water kind of flowing down. It's not a stream. It's not that. It's actually just releasing from the side of the hill and flowing into this wetland pocket. And this wetland pocket that the soil scientist was discussing during that hearing, you know, it's kind of existed a little naturally there, but a lot of it would be from the people on the property. It looked like kind of dammed up the water to keep it out of their properties and deepened the wetland in there. So, you know, there is that challenge as well, and there'll be the challenge of a wetland permit going forward with this type of application. You know, zoning is one thing, wetlands is another, and whether it is a, you know, whether we're talking about a zone change that talks in the whole, and that's kind of what I'm looking for is, are we going to really want to look at the whole Business Berlin Turnpike zone? Or again, if we're looking solely at this property and the applicant does decide to go through an 830G type of process, it's an affordable housing application. So a lot of people don't know as much about 830G. It doesn't come up that often. And the key thing is that affordable housing application does have to come with an affordability plan. And that affordability plan includes lots of items on it, how it's going to be rented, how it's going to be constructed, but it also does include draft zoning regulations and conditions of approval as well. So either way the applicant looks at, they're looking at draft zoning regulations for this property, and to really look at, okay, you know, in the comments too are the setbacks, you know, the setback to the north, the property's pretty well developed. To the south, you have the contractor who's pretty much right on the property line. having those right on there, that would be something to discuss. And that's fine tuning the plans, but that's something I would be looking at in the zoning regulations that, what's the quality of life for the people living in these units as well? And how is it going to be configured? That's when we get into the nitty gritty of the site plan, but that does have a bearing on the regulations themselves. So that's kind of looking for thoughts on that as well.
Just one more thing.
Commissioner Woods.
And I agree. And I think, again, back to what he has proposed here tentatively, it's what, I'm gonna get in front of the saying, I have to say it, is what the people in the town are looking for. They're not happy with the high rises. They want something that's kind of like blend in. This will blend in. They might not be happy that we're building on that piece of property, but yet when it's all said and done, I think it's gonna look well. It's not gonna look like a 4-story building because it's not, we have it's, what is it, Pat, is it 2 units per building, 3
But
units?
it
per
depends,
building, 2 to 4?
they vary. It's one per number. So like you have some 2-unit buildings, you have some 6 units, you've got 4 units. So it varies through the site, Steve.
So again, I think it helps us to get where we need to go. It's gonna be a slow, long road. Last thing I'll say is I'm not opposed to looking at the whole PT zone, but I don't want to do that if it slows down the process. Maybe we just can find it through this. But again, I'm just one member of the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from
Right out here.
Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through the chairman. First of all, I want to welcome Mr. Snow back to Newington. It's been a while since he did anything here, and I remember quite a while ago but this is funny to say because I'm used to the turn of the century between 19th and the 20th, but at the turn of the 21st century, he had quite a few projects here. And, I'm not trying to, sell Mr. Snow, but whatever he was building up at Rockledge and the others were really good projects, sturdy, well thought out. As far as this, I think, Mr. Commissioner Woods and Commissioner Minor has said most of what I was going to say. And one of those things is it did surprise me also that the BBT zone is kind of added back down there. To me, it doesn't seem like that should be the building turnpike zone being on the opposite side of the east side of Kitts Lane. And I think you people would remember, I'm not that in favor of apartments, but as Mr. Woods said, the modern home buyer is not looking for a home. They're looking for apartments mostly. And this has been a trend that has been going on for at least the last 5, maybe 10 years. And so the developer here has kind of latched onto that. I'm hoping that this, along with some other projects that, that are combined with market and affordable, would get us up above the 10%. But, we're getting there. So I think projects like these, I think, should be welcomed by the town, and I think we should definitely work with Mr. Snow to get this done. There's plenty of natural buffering there. I know, and I'm sure we'll have to go through the Wetlands Commission. There are a couple of concerns that I might have once the plans are presented to us, such as maybe the actual height and a few other things. Maybe a second entrance, but I don't see any place where we put that. So I would like to see staff work with them, and I'd like to see Mr. Snow back as soon as we can so we can get projects like this going. Thank you.
Any other commissioners' comments? Commissioner Droz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say really quick, I agree completely with Commissioner Woods and Commissioner Minor. Like the idea of the use, love the idea that it's not huge, love the idea as far as how it looks. Agree with all that.
Mhm.
To Mr. Dixon's point, I do have a question involving, obviously the question before us is, are we allowing residential housing into the BT zone? And that involves not only the homeowners who are looking to buy housing, but also for the businesses that are, in this case, right next door. So having said that, to Mr. Dixon's point, looking at units 34, 35, and 33, when I drove past the property, and that's definitely contractor storage, like dump trucks and equipment and stuff
You're saying the next door's property?
just south.
Yes, yes, yes.
And according to your measurements, especially 34 and 35 are going to be 10 feet away from that. So I might consider a little bit keeping both the residents and the contractor happy and not setting us up for failure in regards to list, get us a little bit more of a buffer. On your east, you've got it's the beautiful lot for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the north, you're far enough away. You're so much farther away. Granted, you're probably going to have tractor trailer traffic going through there, going to the back of the Stop and Shop, but you're much farther away from that. What I would hate to see is we're selling properties to people that are going to be upset and selling properties that then would upset the contractor who's just trying to start his truck, but happens to be 10 feet away from a house that
I'm
just got
just
built.
so good, these are rental properties, not
Okay,
for
rental,
sale, but
same,
yeah, I understand. Either way, tenants complain as well. I understand. And just as another point, when we started this project, and I don't know if you were just looking at it visually, but that contractor was actually on our property. And so we ended up giving him another, I think it was 20 something feet. So he may still be encroaching a little bit. He was supposed to move that off, but
Yeah,
just so you understand, if you're just driving and looking, he may still be a little encroaching. So we
Yeah.
worked out an arrangement where we gave him property.
I looked at the equipment that was actually parked in what would be the
Yeah,
parking lot.
that area. Yeah.
And then looking at your map showing that you're putting especially units 34 and 35 10
Agreed.
feet away.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yes,
whether
yep.
it's to someone renting it or to someone owning it, we're just kind of adding layers.
So we could look at moving them and
Just
creating.
you know what I mean? I
Yes,
just
yep.
hate to set us up for failure. You
Understood.
know what I mean? Appreciate everything else though, to what Commissioner Minor and Commissioner Wood said.
Thank you. Any other Commissioner Fox?
One more real quick. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through the chairman. I'm just reminded of the possibility of going from an 8-30G. We have been through that just once before. And I would rather see staff, as I said, work with Mr. Snow, text amendment or whatever, so that, whatever compromise we have, so that between the developer and the commission in the town, we would have much more to say about what this development looks like. And the looks of that, I mean, that one rendering there that was up on the screen, I think that looks better than some of those market price projects that have been going up in town. So thank you once again.
Thank you. Any other commissioner remarks? Commissioner Pascarelli?
Do you have an idea as to the number of 2 bedrooms versus, do you have any plans for 3 bedrooms? We hear this as well.
Yep.
A need.
I have here, if you look, there's like a little square next, those are my 3 bedrooms. So all 2 bedrooms, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 5 3 bedrooms, I believe, 5 or 6, if you count that up.
Excellent.
Anybody else? Yeah, Chris. Commissioner.
Just one final remark on it, and that was going back to what Commissioner Drowe was talking about in terms of, do we look at everything in terms of the Berlin Turnpike? And the only concern I have is just opening up Pandora's box for the entire turnpike. That I don't think is really what we're discussing. I know the PD on the opposite side of Kits is currently on the market. I think it's only been on the market for about 2-3 months. It's about half the size of this parcel, but it's ironic that it's essentially directly across the street in 2 different zones. That, their potential might be as well for the same type of application. But again, I think the key component here is the 30%. That's huge.
Got it.
That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Woods?
Can you remind me, what was the zone for 3333?
PD.
PD.
Yep.
All along.
Yes. No, and there were some amendments made.
Yeah, I know
For
we
that
made
one.
some changes.
You know, that too, like,
But
in
it
that,
started out as PD.
yeah, that concept of.
Why isn't that BT?
Yeah, because it's only that narrow portion of the north part of it, and the PD has taken the rest of it. But again, the interesting thing about the PD zone, it adds a couple other ones like unrestricted multifamily, but it also points to the business turnpike. But it's like these extra uses, and then whatever's allowed in the business Berlin Turnpike as well. So that's something.
My property is in the BD zone, which
Yeah.
is on Willard Avenue, which.
Yep, and the B
That's why I'm not
in the
quite
business
sure.
turnpike zone allows what's in the business zone. So technically with a PD, you can jump from here and you can go 3 deep. And that's something I eventually would like to look
I
at
think
with the
that-
zoning
yeah,
regs.
I do know I've 4 town planners ago. He thought it was a good idea because we had the 5 acres, so we did it.
Yeah. And so, I think some of the comments that are made too about, the concept of putting housing on the Berlin Turnpike zone. That's where, of course, it was discussed at council with Frog's study of potentially what we can do for pedestrian connectivity. That's a little, from a planning point of view of, right on the turnpike right now, there really isn't the facilities as much for residents. And there isn't as many parks, there isn't that near. And that's something that, as a larger context, when you're looking at areas that are converting to residential, what amenities are nearby? Putting people right on the turnpike is, not necessarily ideal, especially if you do have 3 units and you do have kids. You want a safe place for that kid to be able to be outside. Now, we know that other areas and cities and whatnot are dense and people have, choose the way they want to live in different areas. People want cities. Some people want wide open farm country. It's all a preference for your housing type. But, in well-developed cities that have been high density for a long time, there are public parks nearby, there's sidewalks, there's connections, there's a place to go. So that's a larger thing as we look forward at the Berlin Turnpike. And again, things that have already been and are under construction. I think that's what Krog's grant is, what they're looking to do, the connectivity. And then it will be, town planning and Krog and whoever else we can seek funding for as well, to look at how does this connect to the rest of the community and what amenities are nearby. Because is what would concern me. It's ultimately the quality of life, that health, safety, welfare, that really what zoning is about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I only have one concern, again, as Commissioner Droz pointed out, that when the construction is starting in the morning early, I think they start at, I think the one at Payne Road starts at 6 in the morning, moving equipment around stuff. I would like to see this moved a little farther away from the property line if possible. I don't know what the gradient is right now. But in my opinion, I'd like to have, try to get a balance in there.
Okay. That's
I mean,
definitely
I don't
something.
know for sure, but I mean, I don't know what time they start.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock?
By ordinance.
So,
And Chair, yeah, of course, we'll look at it. It's just, it's just not as easy to say, yeah, we'll push it forward. Does that do something to our road radius? Does that do something to our pitch? Does that do something?
No,
I don't know, but
understand.
I agree.
I'm
I agree that that buffer is narrow, so we've got to do something, either increase it or some other type of solution. We'll come up
and do you have any idea how steep it's gonna be in the back on the side by Stop and Shop? Because I'm just curious.
side by
'cause I mean,
side.
Top of was only a 7 foot.
7 foot?
Okay. To the bottom of the basin is only 7 or 8 feet.
Yeah, that side is fairly flat,
It's
yes.
the unit in the back.
Other side.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Planner.
And I'll add, that real steepness is that area that's in the back. That,
Right.
we kind of discussed the difference in that one, whether it's 16 feet, whether it's something higher than that,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
18 feet difference between road to the back of those
There's no reason
units.
to draw that line up on top. If it's probably 25 feet, I
Yep.
think you can keep going.
And then looking at that space behind them, that's going to be even more. So that is a challenging, and that's something we have discussed about.
Yep.
That is a big challenge. Again,
Correct.
it's not the easiest piece of property.
Right.
That's probably why it's actually sat for so long.
Right.
Because it isn't the easiest piece of property to develop, and it has, again, some challenges of the wetlands and then the grade in the back and the water.
Right. Okay. All right, we're all set for this now? Okay,
Great. Thank you for your time, Commission members. I look
Thank you,
forward to
Mr.
getting
Thank
back. Thank you.
have a great night.
You too.
Okay, anybody, now we're going to old business, I believe,
Yes.
okay? Gina, you want to read the petition for old business, please? 7-24, I believe.
Yep, motions for old business. Petition 7-24, special permit for the sale of alcoholic beverages, section 6.6.2, for 4 restaurants and a grocery store at 3313 through 3333 Berlin Turnpike in the PD Plan Development Zone. Applicant Howard Grossman, Grossman Development Group. Owner Meadow Commons Owner LLC. Contact Janie Anderson. Motion to approve with conditions. Motion to approve the partial site plan acceptance at 3313 through 3333 Berlin Turnpike, subject to the following
All right,
conditions.
we got it.
Additional tenants
Yeah,
require.
Sorry about that. Apparently, the We have,
What do we do now?
the motions. Here, grab your copy. It appears that might have been another copy paste
We have a
error.
revised motion.
Please stand by.
Oh, okay. Throw this
So-
one out.
Yeah, we don't have a revised one, so we'll have to revise it on the fly. My
Okay.
apologies.
Grab mine.
Yeah, grab one.
God, I was at the end.
This is the one I gave it.
Okay, so what it should be motion to approve the special permit
Oh, this
for
is,
the sale of alcoholic beverages at, and then you can read the rest of it and the thing is correct. But yeah, that must have been a copy paste from the last meeting when you guys approved the partial site plan.
motion to approve the special permit
Right,
Application,
application.
at 33. Blah, blah, blah.
special permit application for the sale of alcoholic beverages
Okay.
at 3313.
Okay. So I'll just pick it up from the motion. Motion to approve with conditions. Motion to approve special permit application for the sale of alcoholic beverages at 3313 through 3333 Berlin Turnpike. Subject to the following conditions. Additional tenants requiring a liquor permit are required to obtain a special permit for the sale of alcohol per the requirements of the Newington zoning regulations.
Is there second by Commissioner Woods? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You?
Thank you very much.
You're all
I'll be
set.
that easy, Mr.
Thank you. I know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry about the confusion. Okay. Petitions for public hearing and scheduling. Plan.
Yep, so this is, it's for a special permit, for a restaurant and coffee shop. Again, it was advertised in the, it actually will be advertised tomorrow in the Record Journal. And, wow, I'm going back to my rare reminder. Been a while since I used that paper. So in the rare reminder, the only thing that's different on your sheet in front of it is we've updated the, to read cafe/coffee shop because it is a little more than a coffee shop. It is a restaurant. So that's what in the public hearing notice, and that's what will be on the agenda. Again, this is in the Business Town Center zone at 39 East Cedar Street. In the rear of that, the applicant will be giving their presentation at the next meeting. And this is an application for that special permit, because all restaurants require a special permit. And that the section 3.12A is to utilize the town center overlay zone. And that's in regards with the parking.
Okay, thank you. Town planners report, current land use applications.
Yep, so that's online for anyone who needs to look at it. Again, a reminder to the public that you can click that link and see what the land use applications are.
Thank you. Communications.
Yeah, so I have one other item just under town planner
Okay.
report. I did note to the commission that, so today we did go up to Cedar Crest, Hospital. Some of the commissioners were there as well. We were able to, walk around and look at the property, in discussions with the state. What they're looking at is, possible opportunities for the property and looking to get the town's input on what the town would like to see on the property as well. Again, this was the town council and the TPZ meeting up there as a joint meeting. Ultimately, it's the town council's meeting with the invitation of the TPZ. Up there, it's an interesting property. Again, you have the large hospital itself. You have a smaller building that used to be the lottery building up there. And then you actually have an area of open space in the middle. That's just a large lawn that, they did take down some buildings, I believe, in that area. And the state is looking at, again, what's the town input? They have preserved a good amount of that land already for open space. They've actually, again, part of the land has been, I believe, deeded over to the town, and then a large tract of land has actually been put under a conservation easement. So there is they're looking at the developed footprint that's currently there. There are actually some houses that were previously there that were the doctor's houses and the administrator's house that they're looking at the possibility to save them as well. And they are closer to the quarry on that side of the property, but they have been standing for a significant amount of time. If I had actually time to throw pictures up, I would, but they were actually interesting little houses. They're not anything grandiose, but they, I would look at them and then they would make a great starter level house. What they're looking at doing is the possibility of looking at the property as not just one holistic property and saying, okay, someone give us an idea for everything, but potentially looking at different parts of the property, looking at that residential component to the north of the property, looking at the hospital as its own entity, and then looking at that former lottery building as its own entity as well, which does open it up for potential developers who are looking for the property, something that's more at a scale that's more doable. It's a very large property to have a master plan for that, and finding that type of developer is a little rare. And actually looking at what the impact could be up there would be interesting as well. So we did discuss that, the state, the representatives that we met, we're looking at that. We're open to the idea of, conserving some open space as part of the development of this property. Again, there's that large lawn area that's in between that would potentially benefit the residential component of it if that was separated, and how they're going to move forward. So this is something, again, we had a good discussion up there, a good walk around, looking at the property. And I think this is something that will progress forward with the town and discussions with the town council. And I look forward to being part of those. And I think there's some good opportunities up there as well. And it's encouraging to hear the state that they're looking at the property and looking at, again, not just turning it over and just saying, okay, developer, you take care of the whole thing, but taking the input of the town and trying to look at what they can do with this property.
The question I had, and I pointed this out to Commissioner Minor, is there's old steam pipes underneath here, because I don't believe there's any boilers in any of those buildings. So I think that was fed by the old boiler house on the other side. Now, those pipes are probably asbestos pipes, if I remember correctly. You might want to ask the state if they have any plans to see where those pipes are. I mean, you could be winding up, if they were to convert the old hospital, for instance, into an apartment, they'd have to put a whole new heating plant in. And I don't know if natural gas goes up there or whatever. But I'd like to, and then plus I'd like to also see how much they've remediated and what they have for numbers. I mean, it's, I'm sure the town council would want the same thing. But, again, I was concerned with that because that is heavily asbestos up there, because the buildings were built in the early 20s. And at that time, asbestos was used for everything.
Were you a kid then?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Abraham Lincoln came up there.
Yeah, and that is something, again, that was discussed, and I think it should be continued to be discussed because, it's, the state does have programs, there is brownfields programs, there is ways to do this, and that should all be part of a holistic discussion about how this gets turned over, how that gets developed. Again, it's working with that private-public partnership with the state, with a potential developer, with the town, and seeing, okay, what is the town looking for up there? And there's a possibility for having a charrette, a meeting, looking at it and getting concepts of what people feel about the property, how it could be developed. Because it really is, it's an island really unto itself up on top of Cedar Mountain up there. The connectivity, you have one road getting to it. Other than potential future hiking trails, it doesn't have that much connectivity to the rest of the town. It does exist as its own entity up there, and any plan will have to kind of consider that. But it's actually, for being relatively close to development, pretty peaceful up on top of that property.
Commissioner Woods has a question.
I think there's so many unanswered questions there. It'd be great if we could find some grant money for a feasibility study, because you don't know if the building can be saved. The hospital building. Again, I'd love the hospital building. I think it's gorgeous, but dollars might say it's impossible. Even the state admitted that as much as they want all these properties to be rehabbed, they realize that there's a possibility they might not be. So if we could get some sort of feasibility study, get someone up there to actually walk in the buildings and get some documented information to go to a developer, then you can kind of figure out, because it's kind of hard to, you come up with a plan, but then we want to turn the apartments into the hospital into apartments, and the developer walks in, yeah, good luck with that, right? So I think we need to probably meet again with the council. I think that would be good to kind of feel where they are, because I think they're a very important piece of this. And, but again, if we could, I think we need to know more about the property. They admitted that there's no environmental study done. They haven't even done a phase one, and they're gonna skip right to phase 2 or 3. We all know that. There's buildings gonna be evaded. There's no building that old, doesn't have PVCs, it doesn't have lead, it doesn't, have asbestos. That's a given. To what level, what are the widths of the staircases? Can the staircase, if they're too narrow, can they be blown out? Can new ones be put in? And the answer to all that is yes, if you have enough money.
But at what cost?
Can you make it work financially? And that's a big building. I'm gonna guess 70,
I was gonna say
80,000 square feet. And some of it would have to come down in the back, the morgue area, and some of those lower level buildings that have been added on. But which would only make the property and the building look that much better.
It's only that one.
That had to be, in the 20s or 30s when it was built, had to be spectacular. It just was gorgeous. And the houses, which I was surprised, being so close to the quarry, so close to where all of the mining is going on up there. That brick is, I didn't see any cracks in any foundations. There's no cracks in any of the brick going up. There's no spalling on the bricks. They're in amazing shape without having much care for the last 15, 20 years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Commissioner.
I just feel like we might get a little ahead of ourselves here with doing studies and worrying about gas plants and things like that. They're looking for us to tell them how we kind of an overview of what we like to see up there. Maybe we don't even want that building there. There are more apartments that we, can't fill. What, I don't know. I'm not even suggesting we do anything. The one thing I do see though, somehow or another, to get a developer up there to do what they're talking about, they're gonna have an awful lot of concessions from the state, and they're gonna be looking for some from us as well. I mean, I started thinking about it. I was looking at my Google Maps when I went home and looking at this whole area, and it's like the houses up here they want to save. He's got some grandiose schemes of doing that and coming up in 1 acre lots, which I'd love to see the shapes of those lots. That would be something amazing, actually. Then you have the lottery building down there that's just kind of off by itself. It in the parking lot. There's a lot of amenities if you want to put residential in there. Then of course the big building, maybe you can do the residential in there or not. The open space area, who's gonna do that? Developer's not gonna come in there and develop an open space area unless we force them into it somehow. With the town own that open space area, be part of, that there's a lot of things going on here. But I think the first thing we gotta do is what do we see happening throughout that area? Do we kind of agree with what they want to do, the way they want to break it up? We want both those buildings maybe to be residential. That might be the best use. I don't know.
We talked, Alan, the gentleman that was from the state, who was in charge of dispersing the property. They're gonna survey the property now.
Yeah.
They're doing property corners, no more subdivisions. I said, we convinced them that was not a good idea.
Yeah.
Chop this up into little pieces and, actually subdivide the property. So all they're gonna do is whatever property corners there are to mark the boundaries of that particular piece that they want. So it'll be one big rectangle, square, trapezoid, whatever it works out to be. They're not gonna do individual.
You're talking about that 10 acres they want to take
The
off.
10
Yeah,
acres.
yeah, they're not going to try to subdivide it, but that makes sense.
Yeah,
The first thing, it would have to be an association anyway, and either that or you're gonna have to put a town road to go up into that area, so
yeah,
that makes more sense.
and it's actually a state road right now, so you'd be probably extending a state road.
Russell is a
into
state road. I doubt that state.
Russell where it stops,
I
so
doubt very
yeah.
much that the state would extend the road just to go into a little subdivision.
Well,
They would have to build it, it would eventually become a town road. So in my mind, it's gonna be an association, plus all the driveways are all interconnected too, it's
Yeah,
not
and-
like you can separate them.
And it's an interesting little
those
community.
roads, those roads are, SSR 424 ends at the gate, the back gate. The roads inside are called state institution roads, which were under the
Right.
custody and control of Cedar Crest at that time. So I don't know, that time, last time I was up there before they started closing it and stuff, they were in tough shape. So, again, to your question, Alan, they would have to be built to town standards if the town was to take it over.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, that's why they're not gonna do that.
Right. But, yeah. I'll have to take a look and see.
But again, my point being from the start was that I think we gotta have a little more discussion on.
Right.
How we view this thing before we start worrying about some of the details of, I mean.
Okay.
Gas plants, and I'm sure they know all about that stuff. They may not know what they want to do with it yet, but that's what the developer's gonna have to do. It's gonna be hard. That site, I think, is gonna be hard to bring someone in to develop it. But I know they've been trying for years.
And that's kind of like, what they stated at the, at the meeting as well, as yes, that's what they're looking for. They are looking for the town's input.
My wife was on the legislature, which she left in 2014. They were looking at that piece of what to do with it and trying to do something with it. So it's been a while.
They actually put it up for sale, but they really didn't have a plan.
Right.
And so obviously no developers interested because they didn't know what they were getting. They couldn't give any information.
Yeah.
Well, this is what, we're selling this. Okay, but what's there? But we don't know.
And I think Andy Brecker, if I remember correctly, was trying to sell that.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. And I think he wanted to put some high-tech place up there or something like that, and I can't believe that when they blast, those buildings shake, so. Okay, any other commissioner comments?
Yes, Commissioner.
Just one quick follow-up. So the zoning up there is currently public space, so nothing could ever happen
Right.
short of coming before this commission.
It's public land zone, so yeah, it's zoned for an institution.
Children's Hospital.
Yes,
right.
exactly. It's those large ones that are zoned for either public use or for the large public institution and accessory. So that's why the houses are up there, is they were an accessory to the hospital for the doctors. But just residential housing itself
And the
is
state
not a
exempt.
permitted use.
Right.
And state as well, but yeah.
As soon as they sell it, then they're
Yeah.
falling to the control of us.
And that Tilcon Ridge line continues south, basically to what has already been conveyed on open space. And from that point, you can take it down to the Hartford Hospital property. So there is some degree of connectivity up on the
Right.
ridge line.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Planner. Anything else? The CROG letters, we're all set with those? You have them in your
Yep,
packet?
they're in there. If anyone has any comments or questions or is looking for anything from the CROG letters,
Okay.
please reach out.
Thank you. Second, public participation, and wish to speak on anything that was not discussed tonight? Okay. Remarks by commissioners.
Somebody does have their hand raised.
Oh, I'm
Online.
sorry.
That's
Go
all right.
ahead.
Go ahead, Rose.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. You're rather quick there with the public participation. Again, it's hard for me to keep track of what's going on here. This is something that you discussed, but I don't think it's anything in particular that's going to go against the rules. But if it is, please stop me. I am pleased to see that this new TPZ is taking into consideration the affordable housing as they look at possible new projects. Of the 1,000 units that were approved by our previous, and I stress previous because you are all new basically to this TPZ, and there is an outcry from the public about the housing in town. Once again, I'll just say the previous TPZ, there were very few affordable units other than Dakota's Cedar Point project. There's a definite need for housing. But if the TPZ continues to approve only high-end market rate units, then we'll never reach the 10% goal that we'd like to get to under the 830G. I, for one, would have no problem if there was some way that the TPZ could require that in the future the projects come in with at least 30% of the units being designated as affordable as designated under 830G. It just seems to me that we're building and building and building, but not looking to what we're doing to help the lower to middle class people live in this town. People that work here should be able to live here, enjoy the town that I have enjoyed for over 75 years. And I think if by giving a definite amount of units that have to be designated as 830 or as affordable, then we're not going to have to deal with a whole project like we did with Dakota. Just my opinion. I think you have more control when you give some parameters as to what you'd like to see. But I liked hearing what the discussion was tonight, and thank you for discussing Cedar Crest as well. I wonder if in my lifetime anything's going to happen there, because it's been like this for many, many years. But I hope that whatever they come up with is something that is suitable for the town of Newington, and it keeps the mountain, at least part of it, the way we've known it to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Anybody else?
No one else online, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to public participation. Is there anybody wishing to speak? Anybody online? No? Okay. Remarks by commissioners. Remarks by commissioners? Okay. Closing remarks by the chairman. Thank you very much for coming and attending the meetings tonight. We got a lot discussed, especially about Cedar Crest. And hopefully you can move forward and get something done up there. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Good night, everybody.
I was a favorite of German. Favorite of German.
Ta-da.